What is up, everybody? Jason Tracy from Coffee and Grit. If revenue generation is important to you and your business, which I think it should be, this is going to be an episode that you do not want to miss. What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. I'm super excited. I've got Karyn Kokeny from Kokeny Coaching and Consulting in the studio. I'm surprised I didn't mess that up because I was practicing it. I'm like, I knew I was going to do it the wrong way, but I'm super excited about this episode. It sounds like we have a lot in common, so I'm super excited just to really dive in all the way down from the coaching and consulting to revenue generation. I think that we're going to really jam today. So Karyn, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Jason. I believe we do have a ton in common, and I'm just very excited and grateful to be here. So looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and you were super flexible. I had to cancel a couple weeks ago because I realized I was on a boot camp day, and it sounds like you have some cool stuff coming up too, so I'm super excited talking about that. And now tell me, how did you get started?
How to get started? That's a big question.
That's a big question.
Big. Yeah. I've been coaching all my life. From coaching gymnastics, even since I was a teen, to having supervisory and leadership positions all throughout my life, corporate America. And then it just, having spent most of my career in business and operating under different business models and with Fortune 100 company, middle market companies, like the whole gamut, even direct sales business models. It just made sense when things were happening in 2014. It was just the natural thing for me to fall into.
That is so awesome. So like you fall into it. Tell me, how did you fall into that? Because for me, it's kind of similar, going through sales, having that sales career, moving up through leadership, and then realizing there's more, and there's something I'm coaching, I'm doing these things, but there's more, but there's also kind of a fear there for me anyways.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that I used the word falling and then you're emphasizing it, because I did, looking back, feel like I was falling into it. And the great news was that in 2014, somebody I was having a conversation with said, I need to introduce you to this particular person. So she introduced us. He was a business coach. He still is a business coach. And so I met with him. We met up in person, and I hired him on the spot, because if I was going to be doing something important, I needed to have somebody to help me lead the way. I hired the right guy. His name is Dr. Fadi Barati, so call out to him. He's an incredible person, coach, and friend. And that's how I got started. So I hired my own coach, become a product of the product. I believe everyone needs a coach, and he believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And that's where the falling comes in. Yep. I basically fell into his belief, and I borrowed it. And it's what got me started.
Have you had that where you've had a client now, all these years later, or probably multiple, that have said that out loud, that you believe in me more than I believed in myself?
Not too many say it. I agree. I believe many of them feel it.
Yeah.
And I do work my best to have that belief in them. It's hard sometimes with some clients, but I do believe in them. And I do know that the human spirit has the ability to do just anything, really, that we set our minds to. And the more that I practice that belief, and even take time before a coaching session to visualize and put the right thoughts in my mind, the better the outcomes of the coaching sessions are. So that's a big part of what I do and how I differentiate myself as well.
Yeah, I think it's huge because people ask why coaching. I think one of the biggest things is that it's so hard to see our true potential, where you're, as a coach coming in, you're not emotional. You can see more clearly. You can ask the right questions, but you also have this belief in them that they may not have in themselves. And I know for me, when I hired my coach, and because I did the same thing, I started my business, hired a coach right away because it's like, I don't know what I don't know. I've been a good leader, as an employee, but I'm now creating services and putting myself out there, and I could spin around in circles for a long and then have to go back to work because I blew through money, right?
Right.
And so hiring the right person or hiring a coach then helps you. And it was a lot of that, like, one, having a sounding board to go through these ideas in my head, because I think as an entrepreneur, because you're doing your thing, if you're not talking it out loud, especially to somebody that has, like, no emotions, stuff like that, we can get stuck in our head going around and around in circles.
Absolutely. We get in our own way all the time. People get in their own way all the time. And I mean, you said a lot. You packed a lot into everything that you just said, but oftentimes, believing in them more than they believe in themselves, we still need to kind of come back and meet them where they're at, because there's too big of a gap. And so that gap, there's a fear of success as much as there's a fear of failure in people. And again, if they're not seeing their own potential, then we have to meet them where they're at and give them the steps, give them a path. And that's where, more of the practical aspects of coaching come into play.
It's so funny. The first time I heard somebody tell me that there's like a fear of success, I thought that's bull crap. Like, there's nothing, but there really is when you boil down to it. People are like, what if this does work? And it's like, wow.
Right. Because we don't, you said it earlier, we don't know what we don't know. And so that fear of the unknown, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my life? What does that mean for my family? What does that mean? Like, what, wow, that sounds like a big bag I'm going to have to hold. Like, can I handle it?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense, right? The more we think about it now, but there truly is a fear of success just as much as fear of failure.
Yeah.
So, coaching I've said this to so many clients. It's about who we need to become as business owners. I have people, I represent the 10X brand as well as my own brand. I'm a coach with Grant Cardone. I'm a licensee of Grant Cardone. So I have this amazing tool or set of tools in my toolbox that most other coaches don't have, that are in addition to my own, where I can transfer all of his content and material. So people are coming into the world, and he really thinks big, right? I mean, he owns over $5 billion in real estate assets now. And he started with nothing, no father, on drugs, on alcohol, rehab centers, the like. And he's where he is now. And so he thinks really big. And so we have all these people coming into his coaching program, and I coach his clients. I'm one of 39 people that coach his clients all around the world. So they're thinking big, and they want that million, that first million, or that 10 million. Some of them have said, I want 100 million. But coaching is the process of becoming. So if they want a $10 million business, they need to become the leader of a $10 million business. And not when they have the $10 million business. They need to become it. They need to be it, like embody it now. Be, do, have.
I'm so glad you say that, because so many people think, again, when I get here and I'm making this money, I'll make that transformation. And you're never going to get there if you don't make that transformation.
And where does it all start?
Between the years,
in our minds and our thoughts, So
they always say behaviors drive results, but what drives behaviors?
Thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts, feelings. Yeah.
The story we tell ourselves.
So much of becoming is. And I know you know this too, as I love this conversation already. It's as much letting go, right? What do you need to let go of? Because to get to that next level, there's something that has to displace it with. You, I, Grant, Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
They all have this. We all have the same number of hours in a day, in a week, in a year.
Yep.
It's what we do with that time that makes the difference.
It so is. And there's been so many people that I always say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You ever hear the people that are like complaining out loud about their results, and then you want to help them. So you ask them a few questions and you give them some advice, and they're like, yeah, but I like doing things the way I'm doing. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to keep getting the results that you're getting, and just accept them, as opposed to complaining, because you're just taking action, taking energy.
Yep. And they're not my person. I
And
can't
they're
help
not
them.
my person.
They're not coachable.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big, at what point did you realize you couldn't save everybody?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure anymore what point it was, but I think even beyond the time that I recognized that I couldn't save everybody, I still tried for a while after that, because it's just in me. It's innate within me, right?
Yep.
It's in my heart I want the best for everyone. And that's why I love coaching so much. It's very, very rewarding when you see your clients, I see my clients succeed. I see Grant's clients succeed. It's so exciting. It's so rewarding. And we need to all embrace who we are, our capability, our ability, and we need to do something with that. And I see in the world today, there's so many people not doing anything with what they have at their disposal. I mean, we are amazing as humans. God-given gifts, and God gave us gifts, and he intended us to use them, for us to use them. And there's so many people sitting around now just being so slovenly and being so average and not really doing anything. And when we all get into the game and get on the field and do our part and give to someone else, then we're participating in life. Then we're making a difference. And if we all did that, things would be so much easier.
Yep.
And it takes each one of them. So I'm like the guy, the gal walking the beach and finding that starfish. And I want to pick everyone up and throw it back in the ocean and save its soul.
Yeah.
But to your point, we can't save them all. The desire has to be there first.
Yep. Yeah. There's been so many people I've wanted it more than they did throughout my leadership career, and then through coaching, especially at the beginning, as I was really trying to identify who my people are, because I learned this through coaching, through my job leading, that you can't save everybody. Right. But then I come in and I have a business, and you can probably relate to this. And it's like, you're trying to get business and you see these people and you can help them. So you start working with them, and then you're just hitting your head against the wall, because every week it's the same. I didn't do it. I didn't get any of this stuff. We can do what we can make magic happen in coaching sessions.
Yes.
As a leader, people would always, my boss or somebody would always ask me, how'd that conversation with that person go? And I used to be like, oh my God, it was so awesome. They're going to do this and this, and we're going to, it's life changing. And then they didn't do anything with it. And so whenever somebody would ask me, as I got wiser, how'd that conversation go? I'm like, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I felt like it went good, but what's going to happen next? I don't know, because we sit here like, I told him we had this conversation. No, it's not, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, you're so right.
But so then I get out and I'm, getting these clients. It's like, they should be great, but they're not doing the stuff. And, and then you're coming back and it's like, I can't do this for you. And now I feel like I'm just taking your money, and now I just like, this is not fun for me.
But they had an intention when they started.
Yep.
So there's hope.
Yeah.
In that case, if they gave you their money, there was an intention.
Yes.
So now it becomes our job to pull that out of them and close that gap between what they know they should do and what they don't do. And that's all because their paradigms are running them. Their thoughts, right?
Yep.
So it gets back to, and that's why I incorporate a lot of mindset into my coaching whenever it comes up, because we have to get out of our own way. And so paradigms are just a set of beliefs or behaviors that have been put on us by other people throughout our lives. It's not our fault, right? It's conditioning. It's everywhere. It's our parents. It's our clergy. It's our mentors. It's the media.
Yep.
It's everywhere. And
it's a teacher that told us something at one point in our life that got stuck. Yeah. Yep. It's some, it's a kid that called us fat or whatever in school. It's all those things that create our habits.
Absolutely. And the media is the worst offender. I mean, that's why they call it programming, right? They're literally programming our minds.
Yep.
And if our listeners aren't realizing it, hopefully you do now. It's happening. And so we have to unwind a lot of that stuff in the coaching when it comes up as a roadblock, right? That's our job. We're floating up here, we're like in the helicopter, and we can kind of get the big picture of everything that's going on through the conversations with clients. And then we have to find those things. We have to find those roadblocks. We have to find the barriers. We have to find the blind spots. We have to find the opportunities
Yeah.
just as much. But then if there are barriers and roadblocks, we have to help them see them. And everything starts with awareness. And then
yes.
help them clear them out of the way so that they can change those paradigms, those beliefs, and the ones that are directly affecting their ability to do what they know to do. And then they can actually close that gap and start implementing and doing the work. And that's when the magic happens.
It's when the magic happens. Have you read the book The Alchemist?
I haven't. That's one I have not read.
Oh, read the book The Alchemist.
Okay. It's on my list, actually.
I highly recommend it. And so
Okay.
Steve actually told me, and I did this recently. I read the book, but then the audible's narrated by Jeremy Irons, like the
Okay.
voice of Scar from Lion King.
Okay.
It's just really good, but it's really the entrepreneur journey. In like when you go after your greater purpose, the universe conspires to give you what you want. It's like this whole thing. The moment you make the decision, the important thing to know is like that's just it is what it is. Is this a decision? And that decision is now going to lead you to a whole bunch of new experiences, and those new experiences could be good. They could be bad. They can be indifferent, right? But the whole way is how what is our paradigm on that? What is our narrative around what these experiences are? And I know we were talking about a little bit ago, sitting down and telling those stories, and you've had clients that are like, oh, I can't tell that. And I know I've had clients that are like, oh, no, I can't tell that. And our answer is like, no, that's what you have to tell.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't even want to work with you if you don't want to tell that story, because that's where it's all at. We don't understand that a lot of times our experiences and the things that that's what qualifies us to really work with and attract the people that we want to work with and attract.
Bingo. That's brilliant, because we've been where they're at.
Yep.
But we have something that they want.
Yes.
And so we're further ahead of them in the line. We're not perfect either, and we'll never be.
Yep.
But we're further ahead in the line. So we've been there. We have the experience. And that's how we can show them and be the guiding light and show them the way.
Yes.
We know what worked for us. And in my world, I know what worked for me, and I also know what worked for Grant. And so I can kind of fold that all together and show them a way, a path. It's very clear. There is a blueprint. And so back to practical matters, like, I mean, these are all practical matters, but building a business, there's a blueprint.
Yeah.
There are countless businesses that have grown to phenomenal revenue results. And so it's been done before, and there's no secret about it. It really just comes back to the person, the business owner, and making that decision first and foremost.
Yep.
And then getting the right mentor, I believe, the right coach. That's what I love about coaching. It's so powerful. And then going for it. Going for it. Doing the work.
Yep.
Yeah. Doing the work.
And realize your stories are more powerful than what you believe they are. You know, I have a client I'm working with, and I just, when we sat down originally, she's telling me these like kind of tragedies of things that have happened to her and how she saw them. And all while she's telling them, I'm seeing like, she described to me who her ideal client is, how she helps them, how she empowers them, the modalities. It's like, it's so powerful. She's had this success throughout her career as a therapist. And then she's had these experiences where she's looking, so she, for example, she bought an RV. She always thought about like traveling the world, right? So she sold her house, bought an RV, traveled the world, went and visited her sister in California, did all these amazing things, had these cool, really cool experiences, but also had a lot of tragedies and challenges along the way. Being a woman out on the road in an RV, didn't realize and calculate all the things that could break down and all the things that could happen along the way. But as she's telling me this story, all I hear through this is how much stronger she got, how much more resilient she got, you know. And then I asked her at the end, like, if you didn't do this, you know, if you just think about it, like you didn't do this, what would you be thinking about right now? And she's like, I'd still be thinking about traveling the world. And there's so many people that have a dream to do something and they constantly think about it and they don't do it. And then they get too old, sick, and tired to do it.
So true.
I watched my grandma do this where she, like, there are things that she, and then all of a sudden you can't do those things anymore. And then what happens is you become resentful.
Exactly. Yeah, so true, Jason. Yeah. Yeah, the power of stories.
It's so powerful.
It's so you've heard this, and what you're saying is facts tell, but stories sell. And the doing is where the growth comes from, because the doing means leaping into, again, that area of the unknown, right? Making the decision to just feel the fear and do it anyway, and taking that leap, doing it anyway. And so by doing that, we're going into that place of the unknown, which is fearful. It's uncomfortable. And that's, as you well know, where all the growth happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What part of your story would you say is most relatable to business owners and the people that you help?
Which one?
or which part of it, right? I know,
which
right?
part of it?
Yeah.
So let's see.
Think about decision.
Yeah. A big one is like that limiting belief. I held myself back for the longest time of starting my business. I had all these people that I led that were like, Jason, you need like, I would take them into motivational speeches. You ever heard of Yes seminars?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course. I used to go to some.
Did you go to them?
Yeah.
So we probably ran into each other and didn't even know it. So we probably have ran into
Yes.
each other for years. I used to go to every single one every other month, and I'd bring my whole leadership team with me. And then if there was high performers and stuff, I'd bring them along too, because I wanted to get everybody a chance to get out of the walls and really experience things and grow themselves, right? And so
Think
we'd
bigger.
go to these, think bigger. We go to these things, and my people would always be like, that should be you out there. That should be you on those stages, right? And so I always was like they're feeding my inner, like, that's what I want to do, but like, did anybody really want to listen to me? Like,
That's how
all
they
these
saw you.
things. That's how they saw me. It's what I wanted to be, but I had this fear. And here's a big thing: I had a ginormous why, because I grew up super poor, and I had an abusive dad. I had all these things, and so my big why was to give my family the life that I didn't have, to have a house, to have the cars, to go on vacations, to do those things, right? And so I'm achieving that. I'm making six figures. I'm doing this stuff. I'm not, like, the work is really rewarding. What I really loved is probably what you were really loving, is that leadership, the coaching, the mentoring. I loved getting up in front of the whole company every single month and giving my motivational speech and giving shout outs and like bringing my energy and like really pumping everybody up. But as we grew the company and, we grew across the state of Michigan, I had 9 locations before I left. And it was like, I got to do less and less of the things that I love to do. And so it got more and more painful for me the more and more we grew, even though that's what I thought I wanted to happen. And but it's like this limiting belief of like, how do I leave the safety and then go do something that who knows if I'm going to make it? And my boss literally had to push me out of the airplane. She was like, I know you're never going to leave. I know what you want to do, and I know you're never going to leave. And I appreciate everything you've done for me. And she gave me a lump sum of money and said, now go. And I was like, okay. I was so excited to get like I had a limiting belief. I was I was driving home. I had this money, and it was like, how long will this money last me? And I was like, about a good 6-7 months, maybe a year. I might be able to make it. I might be able to make it for the year. So I'm going to live the best year of my life. Like, I'm going to go do and have so much fun. I'm going to, speak on stages. I'm going to coach people, and I'm going to do these things. And then, I'll probably go back and get a job. And that was like the limiting belief of like, I'm going to live it up while I have this money. And guess what happened? 6 months in, I'm sitting there with no money, thinking, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back and get a job? Am I going to go work at Walmart and stock shelves at night so I can continue doing this during the day? And it was like this limiting belief, like sob story of, it's literally what happened is I'm steaming my clothes, getting ready for a meeting. And I'm like literally like breaking down of what am I going to do? And then it hit me. All the times in my life, my back was against the wall. All through my abusive dad, my mom and my brother and me leaving and going out on our own and all this kind of stuff. Like every time our back was against the wall, it was the spot for the biggest rebound of my life, the biggest comeback of my life. It repositioned me and made me stronger and positioned me for the next chapter in life that was always bigger and better. Yes. And so I was like, okay, my back is against the wall. All I got to do is come out swinging, 1. And then 2, I realized something really important is that, and this is what I coach people on, is that I was very inward in thinking about how am I going to eat? How am I going to live? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to keep doing this business and my wife doesn't make me go back to work? How am I going to, it was all the internal thoughts of me and what's going on with me. And if I'm going out and I'm talking to potential clients, or I'm talking to people, am I serving them the best? No, because I'm thinking about me. And this is like, I got to this point, and it was like around this time of steaming my clothes, where somebody called me and wanted me to do relationship coaching for that, her and her husband. I got referred to this person got referred to me, and she was like, "Do you want to do this thing?" And I didn't, but I needed the money, and so I quoted this really high price that I thought she would never do. Like, this is ridiculous to even throw out there. She's never going to do it. And she's like, "Okay, when do we get started?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what do I do? I don't want to mess up these people's relationship. Like, I can listen, I might lead them to the right place, but I have no qualifications to be a relationship coach whatsoever, you know." And so I had to turn it down, but it was that reminder of I've built a career in sales off of being outward mindset, about wondering and being curious about this other person and what's going on in their life. What's their challenge? What's their dream? What's their goal? And then how can I serve them, whether I'm selling them or not? Am I a good fit for them? Do I know somebody? How can I make this connection and improve this person's life, right? As opposed to going into everything thinking about my quota, my commission, my bills, my whatever. Because that's what most sales is done in, is that inward mindset. And so my whole platform is like, let's get outside of ourselves. Like, we make sales so hard. And that was even why I started my business in the first place. I'm like, we make sales so hard. We get it so easy. We make it all about us. We've got to have all the answers. We got to say all the things. We got to have all the bullet points and all the benefits and all the features. But if we just slow down and use the 2 years that God gave us and the one mouth and use that ratio, right? And
Amen.
Ask the questions. And, I'm preaching to the choir, right? Yes. And it's so much easier.
So true. One of the principles that I learned from Grant, but I knew it innately too, I should say, and I knew it innately. I'm very conscious of my language, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Words that have energy. Energy. Very much about energy. One of the principles is service is senior to sales. So service is more important than sales. And actually service is sales. So really, and I'm thinking increasingly every day now about how can I be in service of him to serve all of these people. It's not about me ever. Yeah. And you're so right. And I'm still making that shift. I probably will be for the rest of my life. You know, we're humans, so we have a tendency to go
That's
inward.
Exactly it. Yeah. And when I'm talking to groups, and like, I'm going to burst your bubble. Everybody here, you'll say your differences, that you care and that you ask questions. Everybody says that, right? And I had this person a couple years ago. She sat down and she spent the first half an hour of our conversation telling me about how she's different than the rest of her industry, and that she asks questions and she gets to know people and she really wants to serve people. And then she spent the next 30 minutes of our conversation sales pitching me. And I'm like, your actions do not match how you're advertising yourself, you know, but that's just how we are. We're human.
Yes.
We go back inward. So it's not natural to be that outward a lot of times. And so it is a practice. It's something I've got to remind myself of going into every conversation.
Right. Exactly. And it doesn't mean by being in service to other people and being present to them, it doesn't mean we don't need a process. We absolutely, sales, there's a process. It doesn't mean that we don't have to measure what we're doing. We need measurements, especially to eventually duplicate ourselves and scale our businesses once we really get some money coming in. It doesn't mean that we don't need scripts. It doesn't mean any of that, because those frameworks are powerful to help us keep on track with the conversation. So there's a blend of everything, right? There's always a blend. There's the practical, here's the tools, here's the steps, but then there's the mind, there's the service, there's the energetic aspect of it. And when we can bring all of that together, wow.
I looked at it as I was like creating, because that's the other thing. I'm trying to create my business and everything that my life's work and turning it into frameworks and all that kind of stuff right at the beginning while I'm not making any money. And I was having fun. My wife was killing it selling. She was selling Harleys, and so she was doing good at that. And I'm like, I'm having fun, but at the same time, she was going to a job that she didn't like. Like, the leadership was horrible, and so the culture was bad in this company. She loved selling what she was selling. She loved her customers, but she'd come home almost angry, right? And then I'm like, oh my God, like I worked really hard today. And she's like, you didn't work. You're like, you don't even know what work is. Like, blah, blah, blah. It was like, but like I was going out and having conversations like this and I'm forming my stuff. And anyways, that's just, I've really boiled it down to like in sales, like what are the 3 areas that I see that where people fail? And it comes down to belief system, the way we communicate in our processes. And so from that moment, like those are the 3 things. And I'm going and working with people. It's like those 3 things, and probably 80% of it is belief system because you can't communicate properly until you have this lockdown.
Absolutely. And talking about stories, money story. People have a money story, and if their money story is one of lack, then Grant says we create our own objections, and I have come to know that as 100% true. So if the feeling is of lack, then we're going to take, when somebody says, I don't have enough money, I can't do it. And they give some sort of price reason, a reason that's around price or budget that they can't move forward with you. Usually that's not even an objection. It's just a complaint, and they will buy it. They will buy that story.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
He says sell or be sold. They'll buy that story. And now the conversation's just ended. The opportunity's ended. This person is now not going to get what they came for, which is a solution to a problem that they need solved.
Yeah.
And the coach or the person who's selling, whatever you're selling, whether it's Harleys or not, I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
I'm still like, I didn't know that. But yeah, we create our own objections. So it's just, we have to be skilled and knowledgeable, but it starts with that belief, and that story, that money story will definitely stop us in our tracks.
Oh, stop us in our tracks. I say the biggest sale you got to do is the first biggest sale is yourself. You got to believe in it 100%.
Absolutely,
if you don't,
Jason.
I can't teach you anything.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And the other 2 things that you got to be sold on your product or your service.
Yep.
And you got to be sold on your company. So that's it.
Yep.
But first thing is sell yourself.
Yeah.
Sell yourself first. Yes.
Because you're the difference as a sales maker or as a salesperson. And if you believe in your stuff, if your products and services, you have that belief level, then you go out there and you're the difference maker.
Yes.
They get you.
You're so right. And I'm glad that you're highlighting this, because even especially in today's marketplace, there's so much uncertainty right now. It's incredible at levels that I've never seen. And so with that uncertainty, we need to help make them certain. And the way we do that is through our own certainty, our own confidence in ourselves, our own belief in ourselves. We do that with, of course, other things too, testimonials, which are stories in and of themselves of client successes. There are ways to do that. But anyway, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. So your wife used to sell Harleys?
Yeah.
I own 2 Harleys.
Do
did you know
really?
that? I
No,
did.
I did not.
I did. And okay, so anybody listening to this who knows me, they'll probably have their jaw on the ground right now. Yes, I had a 93 Dyna Lowrider.
Yeah.
And then I had the anniversary year, a pearl white custom Heritage Softail Classic. Amazing. And I drove it home in the wintertime from Ann Arbor when I bought it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I used to ride for many, many years. But then when I just love the freedom feeling, right? That's what our business owners want. We want that freedom, but you got to do the work, right? But anyway, I stopped riding because, just a little an aside here, I stopped riding because everybody started texting on the roads, and it was getting more and more dangerous.
Yeah.
And during that time, I moved to California, and people were white lining out there. It was scary. I would drive to work every day and hear a terrible story. So I just made a decision, I made a decision that my life was more valuable than my experiences. Maybe it was made out of fear, but either way, I'm looking back glad with that decision. So cool.
No, that's awesome. And I'm honestly, I rode yesterday, but I'm in the process of selling my bike because we haven't rode very often. It's one of those things. And the more and more people we hear that we're friends with or whatever that got into a bad accident or, it's not us.
Yes.
It's the other people out there driving. And there's a certain level of control you can have. What I was thinking about this yesterday as I was riding is one of the things I love about riding is it makes me so much more aware. And that's, practicing my presence. It's not a situation where I can get lost in my thoughts, right? I can't just be riding down the road thinking about other things. I've got to be aware because somebody could be looking down at their phone and pull out of a parking lot.
Exactly.
If they're not making eye contact with me, if they're looking down and they start moving, I'm slowing down and letting them out, right? Like I'm not going to keep going and they hit me. They're not paying attention.
Not paying attention. Yeah. It's just dangerous. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also understand those of you who ride, live and ride free.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And be safe.
It's an amazing, it was a big, for me, it was conquering a fear. Me and Gracie met on the sales floor. So we met selling we work for the same company. And then, so she's had different various roles. She's sold Harleys for a long time. And now she does her own business and stuff. So it's cool. But
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about having that control, right, with riding, so important. Well, it's the same in the sales process. As the person selling, you have to control the sales process. Because the moment we give over, we hand over the baton, think about a relay race. Now you're left, no control, right? It's all in that next runner's hands. So we have to maintain holding that baton. We have to maintain control over the process always, because then we can see it through to the end, to a beneficial, mutually beneficial conclusion. If we let go of it, then bye-bye.
It's up in the air. Why do you think that people vary from their process?
They don't know that there's a process.
There's one. Yeah, that's number one. That's option number one. Yes.
Yeah, that's the most obvious one. Once they know there's a process, then they don't know where they're at in the process.
Yeah.
And that just comes from practice and skill. Like I'm a big believer in role playing. I actually have a sales coach on my team. So my clients also get to plug into weekly sales role plays.
Ooh.
And that is powerful.
Absolutely.
Because they're taking what we're learning.
Yep.
And they go on Cardone University. So they're learning from Grant. They're learning from me, some of the higher level stuff, the mindset, the strategy. And then they're learning from my sales coach, Robert, and they're putting it into practical application, the selling. We're all salespeople. So they don't know there's a process.
Yep.
They don't know where they're at in the process. And those are the two biggest ones, really. And then there's just not enough skill. There's knowledge and skill that's required. And I think most people know that to be skilled in anything, look at professional athletes.
Yep.
They're not doing their skills building every so often. They're getting out on the field, like a football player is getting out on the field every day, doing the drills, building that muscle.
Yep.
There's a big difference between a professional and an amateur. I see a lot of amateurs in the direct sales, multi-level marketing space. Amateurs who are, they don't take it seriously. So they have a hobby and they end up draining their money versus those who do take it seriously and treat it like a business, and they make a lot of money, many of them. So, it's all of that.
It's all of that. It's all of that. I love that. You talk about like the process, and I think of you think of the athletes and professional level, they're all that much more serious. They all have their regiment, their process. They don't vary from it. And then you look at the elite level, like the Kobe's. And Kobe was getting up at 3 a.m. so he could get an extra 2 workouts that everybody else wasn't getting. And he had this whole, and he did it every single day for his whole entire career, and made a whole name on it. And but it took that in order to become what he was.
Exactly. And they had multiple coaches.
Yes.
Multiple coaches.
Yes.
They had performance coaches, which were really mostly about what goes on up here.
Yep.
And then they had, all of their other coaches. That everyone needs a coach. If you want to get to a next level, and there's always another level, you need a coach.
Absolutely.
You need a coach, someone who's been there, done that, who can help, again, shine the light on the path, help give you the path, the stepping stones, and then hold you accountable along the way.
It's so huge. is so huge.
It's huge. It's undervalued, I think, sometimes.
Way undervalued. And when I first started, I'd always make sense with people of like, okay, you have your kids in 7th grade or like they're in elementary school and you're hiring coaches, private coaches for them for soccer in a sport they're never going to play for the rest of their life. And you're spending thousands of dollars, but then you're trying to go after and start your business or go elevate your career and you balk at the price of coaching.
Great point.
Great
point.
You're not going to take care of yourself in order to make sure that you can get more coaching for your kids or the highest level coach in it. But like, why is coaching so important for your kid, but it's not important for you?
That's a great point. And oh boy, I might be unpopular taking this a little further. Why are you, so we make a decision, right? And then behind the decision, now comes the commitment. First you make the decision, then there's a commitment. And the commitment, you're not committed if you're not putting time, money, energy behind it.
Yep.
And so for a parent like that, or a person, I'm not picking on parents, for a person like that who's spending almost all their time running their kids around doing these things, like I see it. And it's such a distraction to where they want to go. They have a vision, they have a dream, they're building something, they're building something meaningful so that their family can have freedom. They can have freedom, time freedom, money, financial freedom, all of it. And yet they allow those distractions to get in the way too much when there's not anything long-term, with a long-term benefit that's going to come out of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not being critical. Like, participating in sports is super helpful. It builds incredible discipline in a child. It gives them structure. I was a competitive gymnast. It's super important to give them those experiences. I just see it in our culture. We take some of these things much too far, traveling leagues, and there's nothing left. People are spent. And so we have, a situation like we do.
Way off topic.
It's a little deep. It's a little deep.
You look at like baseball pitchers, for example, and there's so many more injuries, so many more Tommy John surgeries. It's very almost like 80% of the pitchers have Tommy John surgery at some point. And I started thinking about why now, like never before were there pitch counts. They didn't, now they're so like regimented once they get pro that they can only pitch so many pitches. But throughout their whole entire life, if they've made it to the major leagues, they've played travel baseball all year round since they were like 8 years old. And they're competing and they're throwing over and over and over again. How much wreckage do you have on your body before you even make it to the pros?
Yeah, great point.
That's I will go back to topic because that's way off topic, but it's something that you think about of like how much we throw at our kids as far as sports go.
Yeah.
And I agree. I love sports. I think there's so much value. I love hiring athletes because, again, they're coachable. There's so much that goes into that. They've been parts of teams and they understand that it takes the whole unit to do what they need to do, all that kind of stuff. There's so many, but we put so much on it. Like all of our kids are going to go pro and it's like 1 in a million, like it's very, very low percentages that are actually then going to that next level.
Yeah, great point. And whose dream is it? Is it the parent's dream or is it the child's dream?
Yeah.
Because you both have dreams.
Yeah.
So putting things in their right place. The reason I kind of got taken aback with you sharing that was it just made me think, well, there is some help for that. So I stay in pretty good state of energy all the time. I sleep incredibly restfully. I'm able to get through my day and just be there because texting, right? Coaching is taxing emotionally too. So I use PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, to help keep me up. But that's a whole separate topic. But there are things that we can do. And the point is that also as business owners, we have to take care of ourselves. And so this depletion is also coming from all this running around. So I just wanted to bring it back to, we have to take care of ourselves as business owners, because if we don't fuel this machine, this amazing physical body and mental capacity that God gave us, we have 3 states of being. We have spiritual, intellectual, and physical. We have to take care of it all. So what I put in my mouth matters.
Yeah.
It matters, and it translates to my performance. I can promise you that because I have measured it. So we have to take care of ourselves too. And that's hard. It's just enfolded in all the different habits that over time we have to change and up level in order to go through that process of becoming. You know, you walk into, I have a business partner, he walks into masterminds and he's with billionaires. 4 times a year they get together. He said, Karyn, there's I've barely ever seen someone in that room that's overweight. They take care of themselves.
Yep.
They're you know,
because no matter how much money they
standards.
had, they could be billionaires, but it's not going to keep them alive. I've seen rich people die early if they're not in, you know, that will not buy their health. It will not buy them more time.
That's right. That's right. And time is the one thing we don't get back. So just a little aside, but it is foundational. To me, it's one of the foundations of business is taking care of yourself.
How especially those of us that are taking care of other people, you know, we're empowering, helping other people. We put so much. How do we actually give back? It's like putting the oxygen mask first. If we're not taking care of ourselves, you know, I go through a lot to make sure that I'm in the shape that I'm in, to have the energy that I have, but also to live the life that I want to live. You know, like I play basketball, highly competitive with people half my age, twice a week, you know, and I find it really sad when I see people that are my age or friends that I have, or even my brother that is like, I can imagine playing basketball right now, that are, you know, people that are younger than me. And it's like, it's something I love doing. It's something I get to do with my 17-year-old son. He comes out and plays with me every week, you know, and
That's
it's like,
awesome.
it's so cool. And it's so cool like to have to guard him and keep up with him, you know, because it's one of those things. It's being in shape. It's having that, you know, it's a big part of my happiness in my life.
Absolutely. I see that. And I agree with that. And that's so cool because you're a role model. You're a great role model.
Thanks.
For him.
Thanks.
Great role model.
It's one of those things of, I believe the people are
welcome.
watching no matter what, you know?
Oh, they're watching more than they're listening.
Yep.
They don't give a hoot what you're saying.
Yep.
But they are watching.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
One thing I want to add, why people deviate from their process so easily is FOMO, fear of missing
Fear
out.
of missing out.
If I, you know, like this is my normal process, but if the person's like, feels like they're agitated by that on the other line, they're like, oh, well, we'll skip past this and we'll do this. And all of a sudden now they're skipping past their proven process and they're not serving that person the right way. Or they're not serving themselves the right way to set themselves up for success in order to serve that person the right way.
Yeah. Well, and I also see that you're right again. I mean, and I see that too with business owners, like they have fear of missing out, so they allow themselves to get distracted, and they'll chase after the next shiny quarter that comes across the path.
Yes.
And thinking that, you know, I don't know, where do you think that stems from? Like for me, it's partly like not seeing their worth. And this is where a coach can really come in and be helpful too. But like, what else? What causes that?
I think a lot of people don't really know what their purpose is and what their superpower is. What am I supposed to be doing this? And I can say that because,
Great
again,
point.
another thing that, you know, you asked me about through my journey, that's another thing that I've, throughout my 7.5 years of figuring out my business and what it is that I'm doing, of like, what is it that I'm really doing, that I really love doing, that I'm making the greatest impact on, versus like doing fractional sales leadership for companies that is not filling my bucket. What is the thing that actually, in diving into it? And so now I'm really passionate about helping people really figure out who they are. Like I love asking the question of who's your favorite client you've ever had, because there's data in stories. There's, you know, the tagline of this show is stories or data with soul.
Yeah.
Because as you tell it, there's so much information in that. And when I ask somebody who their favorite client is and they light up and they start telling me about this person, it's like, great, what'd you do with them? It's like, we did this and this and this. And it's like, and then, you know, because I love doing this, I threw this into them. And I had a coach that threw this out to me recently. He was like, you know that thing that you're doing? That you do it for free because it's so easy for you. And then when you do it, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And you're like, oh, it's just something I did really quick. That's the thing you need to charge the most for.
Exactly. So true. So
I'm like,
true.
light bulbs.
Hello.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes. Gosh, I have so many favorite clients. I have too many to mention. I mean, even one I met with this morning. So actually, this one is one of Grant's clients. She renewed this morning for another 3 months. In this case, 3 months. I have just loved working with her. And one of the things I love about her is that she's so coachable. She's so coachable. Like it's like this surrender. I surrender. And then she does the work. And it's hard. So one of the wins she's had is she never, ever tracked her revenues before. And she's been in business for herself for a while, years. So I got her maybe by the 6th week or so, we got her finally tracking her revenue. Turns out she has 5 revenue streams. And I knew she had several. Like I thought she had 4. She has 5 revenue streams. And so now it's all on a Google sheet. And she's been making decisions. And so I asked her, so first of all, congratulations for getting on paper. How was this process for you? And it was very enlightening for her. And then I asked her, so you've been making decisions. What different decisions will you make now that you're looking at these numbers? And there were definitely different decisions that she made. And now her business is taking off, and she started getting more cash in over the last several weeks. And even today, she just closed a client for another $2,519. And so she's making decisions based on the data. People lie. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. So I just love this. But the whole point here was she's coachable. Be coachable.
Be coachable.
Be coachable.
I have this. Kelly, I was telling you about that. That she was the manager I had in Ortonville that introduced me to the coffee shop.
Oh, yes.
That ended up being the Lion's Breath, right?
I love that story too. That was a great story.
I love it.
Thank you for sharing that earlier.
For sure. I
So
appreciate
good.
it. I was a sales director for a company. We were part of a franchise, and we ended up buying. I convinced my boss to buy 2 locations. One was Frankenmuth and one was Ortonville. And so I got this Ortonville store, and we had these new leaders. I took them to a leadership training. All of us. In one of the exercises in the leadership training was during our breaks, they had these big Post-it notes on the wall, and each person had one, and their name was on it. And the breaks, we had to go up and put one word to describe or how we felt about this person, or what we like traits that we admired or whatever. And I put on Kelly, coachable. Didn't think about it. I thought, that to me, like, I'm so excited to work with Kelly. She's so coachable. Like, we're going to tear it up. Like, I'm thinking coachable, right? And so several years later, I'd already left. I've been doing my business. This is probably a couple years ago now. She was talking on the phone. She's telling me about this leadership experience she had training somebody on her team, this new guy. And she's like, Jason, he's just so coachable. It's so fun. And she starts to tell me, and she started laughing, and she was like, I got to tell you this story. And she's like, remember this when we first came on board and you took us to this leadership thing, and she told the whole story I just told you. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, and you wrote on my thing that I was coachable. And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, I was so offended. She was like, I thought that coachable meant that, like, I had so much more to learn. Like, I started feeding into, like, what coachable could mean, that I, like, that I'm not,
oh my goodness,
that he thinks less of me and that he needs to coach me up and all these kinds of things. And she was like, and now all these years later, I realized that coachable is one of the best things that you could ever say about somebody. And I'm like, well, I'm glad it took you this long to figure that out. But that's awesome, and I appreciate the story.
That's a great story. Interesting that she thought that's what it meant.
Yeah.
And it is such a positive trait.
You can do anything with.
Yeah.
It's another guy I coach was like, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work. I think hard work will beat a coachable person will beat a talented person any day of the week.
Any day. Yeah. I love how passionate you get, and yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're amazing. You're amazing. And how you show it. Like, you show your vulnerability. Like, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Thanks.
You're so real.
It's what it's all about.
It is.
That's what I teach in my boot camps. It's a difference maker boot camp, and I love the Navy SEALs. There's an anonymous Navy SEAL that says, "In times of chaos, you don't rise to the occasion; you fall back to your training." And I think about it even from a sales standpoint. There's so many people, and you can probably see this completely. So many people think there's a business development me, and then there's me that everybody loves. There's like me, the mom, there's me, the friend, there's me, the leader, there's me, the, the person that just likes spending time reading books or doing these quirky things or whatever. And what people need to realize is that when that line becomes one, when business development you is you, that is when you make the true difference. That's when you make the true impact. That's when you don't, the best analogy I can possibly think is one of my favorite movies as a kid was, at Christmas time was the Rudolph movie. Remember the old claymation Rudolph movie?
Yes.
And I
used to watch it every year.
Every year, right? Every year. I loved it.
Yeah.
Every year, that whole thing. So Rudolph, he's about to go to flight school and his dad puts the black nose on him. And how does it make him feel?
Terrible.
He's like, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he goes off to flight school, and the kids, the kids are like hanging out, reindeer hanging out, but even his friend Comet was like, what's up with you? Like something your voice, like something up with your voice, and he's like, your voice is funny, and he's like, what do you mean by that? And he's a little fun, but he's like going out and playing, and all of a sudden his nose comes off, and everybody's like, and I used to think those reindeer are assholes, like those reindeer are assholes, like everybody's like shunning him because he's a misfit. But just recently I started thinking about this, and it's like, if we're going out and we're pretending we're somebody else. We're pretending we're somebody else to our friends, and we're portraying that we're this person, and then they find out that we're somebody completely different. How do they feel? They
betrayed.
Don't feel they feel betrayed.
That's the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Betrayed.
They feel betrayed.
100%. Yeah.
And so I can completely understand. I don't know how they would have treated him if he would have showed up with his big bright, shiny. Maybe they would have made fun of him. But the point here that I think is like they felt betrayed because he came there and he tried to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think so many people try to fit in a different box when they go into business development self that if you just showed up as you, and so I'm not going to be a different person wherever I go. I'm me wherever I go, whether I'm crying in public or not.
Exactly. Amen to that. Yeah. And gosh, it reminds me of my corporate life. So part of my story is I spent 20 years in corporate and then also worked for a couple middle market companies. But speaking of like not feeling like yourself, I mean, I realized looking back through the rearview mirror kind of after all those years that I had developed into somebody that I was not. It's almost like I was packing on layers of all the things that everybody else in the corporate environment wanted me to be. Again, back to that conditioning, right?
Yep.
And so for me, a big part of leaving that whole world, there were so many struggles I had with it. So many struggles, Jason. I mean, one was I had to like let go of so much stuff. I had to shed all those layers of crap that I didn't need any longer. It's not that they weren't helpful, but they weren't me.
Yeah.
They weren't me. And I had to find myself again. And even I think about all the different sales trainings that I've been through over the years, either in corporate or, I've done all the things. I'm not going to mention names. I've done a lot of different sales trainings over the years. And, where I'm at now, like this process is that I'm using now, it's just so transparent, it's just so transparent. And of course I fold my own authenticity into it, but it's so transparent. So it's, I don't know, you reminded me of that. And I had to shed myself of all those layers, and then becoming a business owner of my own. It was a journey of finding myself again at first.
Yes.
And that for me, the becoming, like I felt like instead of starting at ground zero, I was starting at ground negative 11 because of all the stuff I had to let go of. And I'm like,
all the unwiring.
All the unwiring. Great. Perfect word for it. Yes. And then the other big struggle for any of you here listening who are in corporate or coming out of corporate, the big challenge, another big challenge for me was there's so much structure in corporate. And now I was walking into a world, there's no structure, right?
Yep.
I got 24 hours in a day.
You can do anything you want to do.
I can do whatever I want. Yeah. So putting structure back into my life. And this is, again, one of the things that I help business owners with, and I'm sure you do too, is you got to put structure back into your life and spend time on the things that matter, that are really going to get you what you say you want. And if you don't put, again, the time, money, resources behind that, then you're not going to get it. But man, it was tough. And I think I really struggled too, because just like when I was 27, my dad passed away suddenly. Crushed me. He was my rock. He was my rock. Realize that's been 35 years. 35 years ago.
And still makes you feel that way.
Oh, you bet. He was my rock. And somehow through all those years, I knew that if something happened to me, like he was my safety net. I knew he'd be there to catch me back to falling when I fell. Like he'd be there for me. But all of a sudden, he was gone. And so I just pounded in and I started to work really hard. And then I think subconsciously, not consciously, I felt like that structure of working for a Fortune 100 company was there to hold me together, right? It was there to hold me together. And I really persisted and I did really well. Like before I left, I mean, I ran a $37 million business very successfully, dropping millions of dollars to the top line every year. Got recognized with President's Award and all that. And it's not, I'm not saying that to be egotistical. I'm just saying it was so hard to let go of those things because they were part of my identity. But to be authentic and to be real, which is what we're talking about here,
Yep.
It requires letting go of those old identities and coming back to who we really are.
Freaking man.
Yeah.
This is, I love this conversation. This is, I didn't know how much we aligned we were on just this. I meet so many other people that are coaching people around sales and revenue growth, and I love that we're like on that same page.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah, that's so cool.
It's
so
again,
cool.
you know, I grew up with a family that worked at GM. And I've watched this, you know, you talk about like tying yourself to an identity, you know, it was very well, it was like a common thing that was said from my uncles and my grandpa and everybody that like all their friends, once they retired, they died. And my grandpa retired and he died. And, you know, and he got cancer, but nothing, you know, I don't think anything had to do with work or purpose. But so many of those guys would tie their purpose into, I'm this guy at GM, I'm a foreman at GM, and that's what you are. And then you retire and you tied yourself, your identity was your work self. And now you have nothing. And so you just, you know, your purpose is served and you die of sometimes sadness, sometimes, you know, heart,
That's right.
like all kinds of different stuff. But I think there's, you know, if you don't find yourself, whether you're in your career, I love the business part because for me, that has been the biggest exercise in self-awareness and learning about myself that I've ever been on.
Yeah. And self-expression too, would you say? Yeah. Self-expression. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very hard. Like you talk about self-expression. And I think there's two things you said earlier. Everybody's a salesperson.
Because we're involved in sales, right?
Yes.
We're either buying or selling all day long.
All day long.
But
all
go
day long.
ahead.
And no
Yeah.
matter what, when I was interviewing people and they had no sales experience, I'd ask them, what's the best sale you've ever made? And they'd always look at me funny. Like, I don't have any sales. No, but you have a girlfriend, right? Or a boyfriend, or you have, you know, like you have parents and you had to get your own way, right? Yeah. And so what was that experience? What was the biggest sale? What was the biggest thing that you sold your mom on you getting to do? And how'd you do it? You know, because if you think about that, if you're in a relationship, you sold that person on your goods and benefits, you know, like kind of features and benefits.
Exactly.
And then the other thing that people don't realize is that everybody is a brand.
Yes.
You know, I'm like,
Yes.
you don't believe it? Like, does anybody have that friend that shows up and you're like, oh man, John's coming. That's a brand.
That's a brand.
John's walking around with a brand.
Yep.
Whether he's the guy that's like, oh my God, John's coming. I'm so excited for him to be there. Or, we're going to have to leave early. John's coming. You know, like that's a brand.
That's a brand. Absolutely. Think about branding. It's, you know, it's like an image. Think about branding on the farm. We take this metal thing, we make it really hot and we put something that sticks, right? It's there. It's an image. It's permanent. Now, fortunately, we can change our brand. We can
Yes.
reinvent ourselves. And there's a lot of that going on. And there's a lot of that and it needs to go on right now. But branding, you're right. We're all a brand. Look at the best, the most successful people in direct sales and multi-level marketing. They don't even talk about their companies.
Yeah,
They're branding themselves.
absolutely.
They have pillars. They
Yep.
have topics that they talk about round and round and round, and they are the same ones over and over and over again. And that's really important. That's really important because they're credible that way. People can come to them with certainty because they know that that's who they are and that's what they stand for.
Yep.
So yeah, we are all a brand, and yeah, so important to know.
I think those are two awarenesses that everybody knew it. Like
Yeah.
you get to grow your brand, and the better you sell, the more you're going to achieve in life. And
Yep.
and again, I look at sales from a standpoint of serving. And this is kind of
Yes.
I haven't told this story, and I don't know if I ever told this story on the podcast, but it's kind of funny. And it was in a
Do
book that I
tell.
wrote. But several years ago, before I started my business, me and my wife, like I said, we're both in sales, and I coached my son's basketball team. This is like elementary school, and we were leaving, and my son had just hung out with this new friend of his, and he was over at his friend's house, and it was like he didn't stay the night, but he was there the whole day. And we were walking out, and the mom of the little boy came up to me, and she was telling me, "Oh my God, Jackson is so sweet. He was so awesome. He's the best friend that he's ever had come over. He's like so polite. He asked me questions. He did these things. You guys, I just wanted to let you know that you guys are doing a great job." And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I look at it. He's the son of two salespeople. And she was like, she looked at me and she was like, well, I don't know about all that. And she looked at it, like I said, the worst, dirtiest word ever. And then she had to go home and counter China and make sure they didn't steal something from her.
That's
and
funny.
it was like the perception people have of sales is like this horrible thing. But how I always
true.
saw it was, again, and the reason why I was allowed to be successful is because I believed in it. And I believe that I can't sell something that I don't believe in.
Right.
If I'm selling something that I do believe in, that I do believe can help you, and I'm uncovering your needs, your wants, what's keeping you stuck, then I'm serving you by helping you get into the thing that's going to get you what you want.
Exactly. You're providing a solution to a problem they have, and they solve the problem and they feel better for it.
Yes.
That's valuable. And again, back to Grant Cardone, I'm so aligned with him he says life is sales. That's one of the things that really caught me in the beginning is that philosophy, life is sales. You just gave all those examples of how life is sales. Every day we're selling. I believe, I'd love to hear what you think, but I believe that people don't like sales just because they're not good at it. They don't like failing, like they're not good at it. And so it doesn't feel good, right, to hear no.
I think there's so many I want to say misconceptions, but the problem is they're all true. Like sales is done from a majority of an inward mindset where people are thinking about themselves.
Very true. Very true.
And that's kind of my journey. I sucked at sales when I started out. I was so bad at it. I was like about to have my truck repossessed. I was about to have be evicted. I was like not making any money. And I had this sales manager come up to me, and I was new at this company, and he was like, "Hey, I know you're new and kind of struggling." He was like, "Something I did when I was a younger salesperson is I went out and I shopped all the competitors, or I shopped other salespeople, and I took notes and learned from the best people." I'm like, that's a genius idea. I'm game. I'll do it. So I went out and I did it, and I was doing it for a few weeks, and like as a 21-year-old guy going out to car lots and furniture stores and all the places I could find salespeople, and guess what I got? Not anything very good. And so I'm like very frustrated. I'm like, I'm not learning anything. This sucks. See, all these people suck. And I'm like, the car lots, people are playing paper, scissors, rocks over who's going to go talk to the kid that's going to waste their time. And
Oh
then
my goodness.
I feel that
Yeah.
like, I just want to get you out. I'm going to
Energetically.
placate you. You're not qualified. Or there are people that would rather like be hanging out in the back, doing whatever they're doing. They're playing on the internet, whatever. Or there are the people that are just hardcore selling you. They don't even see your face. They're just like trying to sell you something so they can make their money. And so I wasn't finding anything in between. And I was like, I'm not learning anything. And then I realized, oh my God, that's it right there. It doesn't take much to be better than the average. it doesn't take much to be different. I call it difference making now. It doesn't take much to be different than everybody else. You know, like all you got to do is care and ask a few questions. And that was the reason why I thought I'd be good at sales in the first place, is because I'm naturally curious and I ask good questions. And I never realized what it was that I was doing and why people would give me things for free. You know, I was working in a nursing home. I needed to make more money because I was trying to pay my way through school. And I'm like, oh, sales would be it, because people are doing my job for me and people come and pay for my lunch, and people do these things for me all the time. And I don't know why, but it's because I gave them space. I asked them questions. I listened to them. I cared. It's like, oh, what if I work that into my sales game? What if I bring myself into my sales game? And I'm sitting, and the result of that is I'd have people that drive several hundred miles to see me. They'd wait in line, you know, like, and I created a following of people. So I created this book of business, and then I just taught other people how to do the same thing.
Perfect. And salespeople, if you want to, you know, badmouth them, you can, but salespeople are the highest paid. If you care about making money, salespeople are the highest paid profession.
Yep.
Beyond doctors, lawyers, any of it. So when you're good, you can do very, very well. And so for everybody out there who's a business owner and listening, or an entrepreneur, and you're wanting to say bad things about sales, I would say jump in and learn about sales, because it really is just being of service to people, like you're saying.
Yep.
And it's caring, it's solving problems for people, it's helping them find solutions, really through quite great question asking, which is what coaching is founded on.
Yep.
And that fact-finding part of the sales process is the most important part, I would say, because when we uncover truly what's like the dominant problem that's giving them the most pain, and you can solve that thing, is it even a sale? It's like, when do you want to get started? Let's go. Yeah. Let's go.
So, all the movies say always be closing, and everybody, you know, like, if in the sales atmosphere, people want to be taught how to close. And to me, if you've done your job throughout the process, closing is, when do we get started? What does it look like?
Yeah. Well, closing, I agree with that. And closing that is where you can get into negotiations. And so that is a separate skill altogether. I based on my training, what I latch onto is closing it is separate from selling. And it's only like 5% of the whole conversation. It is at the very end. And if you don't close, if you don't, then, like I said earlier, everybody loses. If you do close, when you do close, everybody wins.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's 5% of the conversation. It's at the very end. It's are you ready to get started? Like you said, and it's 100% of your income. Think about that.
Yeah. Because you could do everything else right. If you don't close it, you're just hanging out there.
That's right.
You had a great conversation.
That's right. It. And there's always all of that that's already been invested up to that point. So now you get into now we got to do the follow-up, which is the biggest sales secret of all. The follow-up is so important. Yeah. And even me, like, let's be vulnerable here. I have a lot of personal stuff going on in my life right now. I have a 93-year-old mom. And so, you know, the distractions make it harder to keep up with those commitments of doing the things, the revenue generating activities that we need to do. So I get it. You get it. We all, like, life happens. But that's where, you know, the more conversations we can have and the more we can bring people into our fold. You're doing a great job of that, by the way. I mean, you're doing so much goodwill in the world, and so you're bringing a lot of traffic to you, and it's really admirable. So
I appreciate that.
Yes,
it's one of those things. Again, even how this unfolded, it was like, how can I give back and create content for myself too, and brand myself and get myself out there. I didn't love making the videos by myself, you know, like, and I was able to be more myself in conversations versus like, all right, let's press record. And now I'm trying to like say a spiel or a script or whatever I'm trying to say in my head, or I'm messing it up or whatever. And then people would tell me their stories. Like, people need to hear this. And then they'd tell me, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how to create content. I don't know how to tell people that story. And it's like, let me go buy a GoPro and we're going to like, and literally I'd just buy this GoPro. I bought this GoPro, and when I'd have a deep conversation with somebody, I'd be like, hey, do you mind if I pull this camera out and we create some content? And I'll put some clips out and tag you in. And they'd always say, yes, like,
Perfect.
let's do it. And then I ended up settling in at my collaborative workspace. I have an office downtown here, just down the street, and I'd record people with this GoPro. And then this happened, and you know, the rest is kind of history, but it allows me to be consistent. But this podcast, it's like, you talk about how everybody wins. And, you know, I look at like the audience and the people that listen to it and people that reach out to me and say, I feel like you were just talking to me, or, you know, that thank you so much. I listened to this person and that's what I really needed to hear today. You know, all those things of people that are just motivating, providing hope. They're hearing people's stories and they're like, that's me. That's the journey I'm walking in right now. If they did it, I can do it. Kind of like Roger Bannister, right? If you can break the 4-minute mile, somebody else can too.
Yep.
And then, you know, my guests, it's like being able to put them on a platform. We have an authentic conversation. I create clips and put those out there and people pull in. But the biggest thing is my relationships get stronger.
Yes.
And that was even out of the gates. It's like, I'm having this really cool conversation with somebody, like, let's take it deeper. Like, let's make a video together, you know, like let's do some collaboration. And then, you know, so we do this, and now it's like we do it every week, right? But I do this, and then the week that it comes out, it's like all that week I'm messaging you and like, you know, here's the stuff and like tagging you in the clips. And it's like a week long of just this conversations we have.
Very cool. Very cool. And you're a great example of collaboration too, because collaboration is so important in today's world too.
Yeah.
Especially since we've gone all digital.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
5,000%. And you know, it goes back to that abundance mindset versus scarcity, because even out of the gates, there'd be so many people that are like, oh my God, you do exactly what I do. Like, or you're like very similar to me. Like, can we even co-hat? But to me, it's like, how much more people can we help by knowing each other? Like, I'm not for everybody. You might not be, you know, like, like we all have our fits and our people, and, you know, so.
No, you're exactly right. It's that abundance mentality. There are 8 billion people in the world, for goodness sakes. There are 330 million people in the United States. So, yeah, of course, they're not all business owners, but it's abundance mentality.
Yes.
And you're exactly right. You know, someone's going to gravitate to you or someone else or me or someone else. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. There's plenty for everyone. And that is part of the paradigm that unfortunately has been put on people. All you have to do is walk outside and look around. I remember going on a walk. It was last summer, and I went down like a more of a main road and went into a different neighborhood just next door to mine. And I have a nice neighborhood, but I was just counting the money. You know, looking at this house, looking at the cars in the driveway, like I couldn't even count that big after just a little while. There's money everywhere. Look, they just print more every time we need it.
Yeah.
There's something like, I forget the figures. There's enough money on this planet for every single person to be, I don't know, multimillionaire.
Yeah.
We could all do the math. I might have to go home and do the math, but it's incredible. So, you know, and if we want money, we can't shut down money. We have to be proud, like happy for the people who are doing well, and not look at them and scorn. We have to look at them and say, wow, amazing. Congratulations. Way to go. How'd you do that?
How'd you do that?
How'd you do that? And learn from them.
Yep.
And there are more and more people who are waking up and doing that today. We've been taught a lot of lies.
Yes.
We have been taught a lot of lies about, you know, how to build wealth. So many things. I don't necessarily want to go down that path, but we have been taught a lot of lies. And so, yeah, and I'll even, once my business owners start making more money, we're teaching them about how they can protect their money. Well, first you got to control your money, and then how to multiply your money and how to protect your money. So I'll give you an example. I don't own the house I live in. I rent it. I own real estate, but I don't live in it. The real estate I own pays me while I sleep. So I teach my business owners how to do that. Once they get money coming in, we actually, right from the start, we start storing stuff aside so that once they get that storehouse to a certain amount, then we can go invest that into other assets, other private equity investments that can help make money and put the money to work for them multiple times over.
It's amazing.
And those investments are not available to the masses. There are things called sophisticated investors and accredited investors. And most people haven't even heard those terms. And you have to be those things to have those investment opportunities opened up to you. So, subject for maybe another time.
Yeah.
But man, there's a big wide world out there. Like you said earlier, we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. And just 5 years ago, I didn't know that.
How did you come across the Grant Cardone and the whole program?
It's an interesting story. So I met when when COVID happened, the thing happened, and the world shut down. I ended up getting online with some groups, and I met a man. He ran a 7-figure digital marketing agency out of the UK. He was the one that told me about Grant. I'd never heard Grant before. So of course, with Grant's spectacular marketing tactics, I was retargeted, and of course, started
the mere
getting
mention
him in
of his
my
name,
feed.
all of a sudden you're popping up everywhere on social media.
Yeah. So the first thing I came across was a real estate a webinar that he was having, and this one happened to be live. So I signed up for it because I like real estate. I was a real estate investor at the time, and I was just so tired, and this was 2021. I was so tired of being in my home for a year and a half. I'm here. It was almost about a year and a half at that time. And I was fascinated by what he was sharing about real estate. I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. And I was just fascinated. So he was offering, I could go to this real estate summit in December in Miami. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm getting on a plane. The heck was sitting in my house. So,
no matter what happens, you're in Miami.
Yeah, I'm in Miami. So for the first time, I put on a mask against my will to get on an airplane. And then when I walked in the room of almost 2,000 people, I found out that this was my tribe. And I learned that he had 16 other companies. And I learned about the licensee program, and it just made so much sense for me because I had started coaching businesses in 2014. This was 2021. And when the world changed, I got knocked off my rocker. I mean, it hurt. It hurt. I got knocked off my rocker just like so many other people did. Mm-hmm. And I was lost. And I started burning through money. It was bad. And I didn't know digital marketing, and I didn't grow up with technology. And so, man, it hurt. And I didn't know about money yet. And so what did I do? I burned through money in an IRA that is no longer here. Had I known better, I would own more real estate today, and that money would be working for me multiple times over, like the other money is. Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, that's how I learned about Grant. And when I learned about his licensee program, which was one of the 16 companies, I signed on because it just made a lot of sense. I was already a business coach, but I could latch on and add to my toolbox all of his incredible sales and marketing resources and have all that much more to offer to my clients. Cardone University, which is incredible. I slept on it in my hotel room that night, came back the next morning, paid my $25,000 and became a licensee. And then in the next year, 2022, I was brought on, hand-selected, along with, like I said, 38 others of us, to start coaching his clients. And so I've been doing that as a subcontractor ever since. And so that's given me a really cool, amazing opportunity to coach businesses that I would never have attracted on my own because they're his clients, right? Yeah. He invested the money to market and bring those clients in. I just get handed them. I mean, they do a good job of matching us, but I've coached publishing companies and home service companies and other coaches and direct sales professionals. And I mean, the list, digital marketing agency, franchise brokerages. I mean, you name it. I coach all different kinds of companies, so it really stretches me. And so I have grown as a coach in the last 3 years like I have never would have been able to grow. It's phenomenal, phenomenal honor and opportunity to do it. So you asked me how I got involved. I took it further. I hope that's okay. But it really, you can see I'm very grateful for it all, and continue to just learn from Grant in so many ways, and his whole executive team, Sherry, Jared. Yeah, all of them.
And it's so interesting because I think a lot of people, so many people have heard of Grant Cardone and 10X. And if you haven't maybe you've heard of Grant Cardone, you've heard of 10X probably,
Yes.
or you've seen it around. And so it's so cool just having the conversation with you of you've been so close to him. You've done this stuff like to be one of 39. That's got to be pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Because we are the people that we surround ourselves around.
100%.
And so to be able to put yourself in that situation.
And the biggest honor is when you can do something that gets Grant's attention, because he won't pay attention to you unless you earn it.
Yeah, yeah.
You can get Grant's attention
Yeah,
and get on his stage. That's the biggest honor. And I was on his stage in Las Vegas in front of 7,500 people live and over 100,000 people online.
Wow.
Just in March.
Wow. How'd that feel?
As one of the coaches. Yeah. It was exhilarating. It was remarkable. Yeah.
That's
Biggest
so
stage
awesome.
by far I've ever been on. So it was cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was cool. But again, it's not about me. It's the people that I coached. It's the results that they got, the renewals that I earned that put me in third place to earn me the place on that stage. And it's all about them. And that's the reward.
3rd out of 39. Go you. That is awesome.
For 2024.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then
Thank you.
you get to then, you work with his clients, but then you have your own clients within your own company umbrella, and you do your stuff, but then you have his tools to be able to bring into your clients as well.
Yes. Correct.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's really great. And having been with a Fortune 100 company, working for a couple middle market companies, one where I was a cultural mismatch, was a horrible experience. That's what made me sick in 2012. That's another story. It gives me a really big arsenal to pull from. And that being said, in the beginning, most of the businesses I work with, they're on the road to their first million. Most of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have some that are bigger than that. They all need the same thing. It's always promotion, marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of the business cycle is marketing, promotion. If you can get to paid advertising, awesome.
Yep.
If you don't have the resources, there's plenty of other opportunities. But they all need the same thing. And we got to just focus on that income. It's really important to get the revenue to a certain point so you've got free cash flow coming in so you can then start to reinvest in the business and start bringing in people, which is, very invigorating and a challenge for business owners who've never managed people before. Mm. And that's also where I can bring a lot of my expertise from being in corporate, having managed teams of people. So it's, I have this arsenal, so many different experiences. But 2012, I don't know why I just thought of that, but 2012, ooh.
Well, and it's that thing, and I one of the things I loved about COVID and the whole 2020 thing is that it opened up a lot of people's eyes that they don't want to continue living life the way that they've been living it.
Yes.
And it inspired this great awakening of people. There's all this time of people thinking that so many people were surviving off of unemployment. No, they found side gigs and they found businesses and they found side hustles to make money, so they didn't have to go back to work with you. I saw people that were going to work at restaurant gigs and starting their business and just piecing things together, or doing Uber or whatever food delivery programs just in order to piece things together to start their business. I've had so many people on this show that started their business in 2020 based around this whole premise.
Yep.
And people were so ignorant. They're like, oh, they're just collecting unemployment. No, they just got away from you.
Exactly. And they got a taste of what it's like to
Yes.
be running a business on their own. They got more time with their families. They started remodeling their houses, and those businesses were doing amazing. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they got a taste of what freedom could look like. And you and I both know that it's hard work.
Oh yeah.
To build a business
Yep.
that flourishes, it's, there's nothing easy about it. It's simple. It's simple, but there's nothing easy about it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what you and I run into. Sometimes there just are people out there that just aren't willing at the end of the day to do the work. They don't have the fortitude. They don't have whatever it is, the energy, the will, the drive,
Yep.
the ambition to keep going. And that's why most businesses fail in the first 5 years, even 3, because there's a lot of reasons why they fail, but most businesses fail. They just don't go the distance.
Like 80% in 5 years fail.
And it's hard. Yeah.
And I think
at
the
least
next 2 years, 80% of those 80% of
Yes.
those 20% fail.
Yes. I've seen different figures, but yes.
Yeah, I don't
at least
even know if that's true anymore, but that's been the one that's
Mm-hmm.
been around for a while.
Yep.
And there are various reasons. I always look
Mm-hmm.
at a big thing is sales and selling, because there is
Mm-hmm.
all the limiting beliefs and stigmas around what sales are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I started my business in the first place, because I've seen we so much success in our company with what we were doing that all these other companies were coming to me like, they started this business because they had a passion or an expertise, so they just didn't want to work for somebody else. They wanted to start their own thing, and then they're struggling because they've never sold before, or they've never sold this before. And a lot of people think I'll just hire a sales team, and that'll be great because I'll hire people that know what they're doing. The people that are self-starters that know what they're doing, that will lead your company to success, are like less than 0.5%, and if you can find them. And then usually those people are so like different that you like, if you have a hard time. It's like a wild horse. You've got to like bring a wild horse in. And if you don't know what you're doing, those people are going to be the ones that are going to rob you blind, because they're testing the fences everywhere they go, right? They're
Yes.
like,
or they're going to leave because
or they're going to leave.
great people won't come and work for a business owner that doesn't know what they're doing.
5,000%. Yep, they get
Period.
frustrated really
fast.
quickly.
They need a leader. They need direction. Yeah. They
Yep.
need certainty. They need speed.
It was one of the biggest growth things I had in my career as an employee and as a manager, as a leader, is I hired a guy that was the top 0.5% salesperson. This guy made more money than I like in a couple of years of his career than I'd made in my whole entire career at that point. And I was like so nervous. I've been hiring this guy. I remember the dumbest question I ever asked. This was so many years ago. He asked me how much money I made, and I was like at a point in my career where I was so super excited to be like, I made $60,000 last year. And this guy, as soon as I saw the way he looked at me, I was like, oh shit, he makes way more than that. But it made me grow so much because this guy was so intense and he wanted things a certain way. And, he'd always had these fires or these issues, these things he'd bring to me, like it's so unorganized and blah, blah, blah. And it made me get so much better as a leader. And even to the point where, like, again, top people are usually really like one tablet short of a medicine cabinet. There's like something really quirky or intense about them that will drive you crazy. And I had to learn all of that and harness it. And it made me grow so much.
Yeah. What an awesome opportunity
Oh,
for
it was a
you
killer
to
opportunity.
have.
It was career changing. Yeah, I had
Yes.
two things happening at the same time. I had a mentor that pushed my beliefs and changed my life and taught me how to really be a leader versus just being a salesperson. And that guy, and just all of his intensity. And also, we talked about Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile and just that belief system that when you see somebody do it, I was the top guy in my store while leading and managing at the time. I hired this guy. I didn't know that it was possible to do the stuff that he did. Once I saw it was possible, and then he didn't even have a good personality. Like he was like not a guy that was like, warm and fuzzy, right? I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. Why can't I do it? And if I can do it, then why can't he do it? And so it was a process of teaching everybody, but the biggest thing I learned is that it's hard work. Like it's hard work, it's discipline, it's consistency, it's these things that don't feel sexy and, but when you do this, you will get the results.
Yes. And you're almost coming full circle to the beginning of our conversation. You just said 2 magic words, consistency and discipline. There's only one thing at the end of the day that is the difference between people who succeed and those that don't. The ones who succeed never, ever, 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 ever gave up. It's possible for any of us.
Yep.
But what's in between and what's the hard? The hard is the becoming, the changing the habits, the learning skills and putting them into practical use, coming against that terror barrier and deciding to crash through it anyway, do the thing anyway. It's the consistency. It's doing the things you don't want to do, but you know you must do consistently, like that football player doing the drills on the field every day. If it's worth doing one day, Grant again, it's worth doing every day. Doing those drills every day consistently, no matter what. Like no matter what, you're out there having that discipline across all areas of life, to feed your mind with the right things, to get around the right people. We've said all the things, we're pulling it all together, right? Get around the right people, to put the right things in your body, to get enough sleep, to all the things, all the things. It's the consistency and the discipline, and never, ever, 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 did I say ever? Give up.
I got the image of the frog going into the pelican's throat, and he's like clutching onto his neck. Have you ever seen that graphic? No. I remember it was like in my elementary school class.
Mind.
Yeah. It was like never give up, and the pelican is trying to eat the frog, and the frog's like got him by the neck and is trying to hold him off. It's funny.
Oh my!
But never give up.
Never give up. Never give up. There's a crazy story. I don't even know this story well, but I'm going to try to say it really short. Frogs in a pit hole. Frogs up on top that didn't fall in the pit. And the frogs are trying to get out of the pit. So they're jumping. And the ones on the top are saying, oh, you'll never make it. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. You're going to die. Well, anyway, finally one frog is like, jump. And he jumps out of the pit and he survives. He was deaf. He didn't hear them saying all those things.
That's great. That is
I don't know why.
That is so awesome. I'm like, I was wondering,
a deaf frog.
How did he make it? Because like I know that negative energy of everybody telling you you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
At some point, you give up because it's all you're hearing in your mind, and he's deaf.
He saw them like, whoa. He thought they were encouraging him, and he jumped out of the pit. Obviously, it's a false story, but it's a metaphor, right? For life. I mean, surround yourself with the right people who are going to cheer you on, who believe in you, who know you can do it, who hold you accountable, who challenge you to do things. I want a partner in my life like that, who challenges me, who knows I don't want to quit and won't let me when I say I want to quit because I've said it.
Yep. Read the book, The Alchemist. You're going to love it. They actually talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So awesome. And I love that this is like such the mic drop, a great way to end it. But I love how this comes full circle, because when we were talking earlier, it reminded me of this story that when I first started, I was working with this guy, and he was telling me this story of, he's like, I don't believe in going to a therapist or a coach, because he was like, if I'm walking around and I fall in a pit, he was like, the last thing I want is for somebody to stand outside of the hole and tell me how to get out of it. He was like, I got to try to figure out how to get out of this hole myself. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, and I get it if somebody comes along that doesn't know how to get out of the pit and they're just shouting useless stuff at you, and telling, try this. When bad things happen to us and people all have their help and their encouragement and they give you all the suggestions, but they've never been through it. And so they have no idea. They're just telling you things, right? But stay with me here. What if the person that came fell in that pit last week and they figured out how to get out of that pit and they came by and stopped and was telling you how you can get out of that pit and walk around outside like they did? Yeah. Would you listen to them? And because that's all the difference. I get if you don't want to hire somebody that hasn't walked in your shoes, they don't get it. They may not ever get you. Who knows? But when somebody's been there and they've done that and they figured out the solution, wouldn't you want to know? Or would you still want to try to figure it out yourself? Because you can, and maybe you get out. Maybe you're like that deaf frog and you're able to jump out of there. And then maybe you can go and help other people because you figured it out yourself. But how long were you down there? What if that coach could have saved you a couple weeks?
Or a couple months or a couple years?
Yep.
Or a decade?
Yep.
A couple decades. I can think of areas of my life like financial aptitude financial knowledge, I could have saved decades and I would have been a billionaire by now.
Yep.
Had I known what I know now. Had I known. Thinking about that guy, right? Who says, I need to figure it out myself. That's ignorance. And the opposite of ignorance is that knowledge that we've talked about, right? Yeah. Why not have somebody in your corner who can also impart knowledge to you that you can apply immediately?
Yep.
Ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. Ignorance leads to the fear. It leads to all the bad things like depression, all of it, procrastination, all the bad things. So it's just the absence of knowledge. And that person is ignorant because at the end of the day, business owners, entrepreneurs, we're all in one business, and that's the people business. And people, like, it's a strength to be able to ask for help.
Yep.
People are what make the world go round. Collaborations, people buy from us, we sell to people, we purchase from people. People, we don't buy from companies, we buy from people who work for companies. We're in the people business at the end of the day. We can't do or live without people. So people are priceless.
Priceless.
And relationships with those people are what matter the most.
And I must say that's the absolute mic drop, because I talked about the yes seminars earlier. And one of the things that would happen is when I take my leadership team out, there'd be things that I'd preach and say in my voice over and over and over again. And then they'd go out and they'd hear the speaker, and then we'd go and do a debrief afterwards. We'd be eating dinner in the middle of the session. And I'm like, what's your takeaway? And my people would always say something that I've said over and over and over again that this speaker said. It was like, you know what, today I learned this. And they say this thing, and I look at them like, how many times did I say that? But it's like your parents, right? And so what my point is, there's been so many times I've said exactly that on this podcast. And sometimes it takes somebody else to come along and say it a different way. And I hope that right now, if you're listening, you're like, Karyn just brought on the light bulb. We are in the people business, no matter what it is that we're doing. It's people, and the people, we have so many resources. We can get on YouTube and learn how to do anything, right? We can get on ChatGPT and it can walk us through just about anything we could possibly think of. We could rebuild a car right now and have with no knowledge, right? Yeah. But it's people that come in and shift our perspective. Something online, something on YouTube isn't going to come and just like change our mind, change our opinions. The biggest growth I've had, it was a person that came along and changed my paradigm.
So good. Yes. And so if you're listening out there, go out, touch someone today, be the light for someone's path, contribute something, be kind, not nice. Look up that definition of nice. You'll probably never use the word again. Be kind.
Absolutely.
Shed the light, inspire someone, help someone. Contribute.
5,000%. Yeah. It's amazing, Karyn. Thank you so much for coming out.
My pleasure. I've had so much fun. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. How long do you think, don't look at the time, how long do you think we've been on?
I have no clue.
What would be your guess? Because I know when I said between an hour and 90 minutes, you're like, so.
An hour?
We've been on for 99 minutes.
Really?
I just looked, I'm like, oh my God, we're over. This has been a 99-minute conversation.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
So cool.
That's right.
So, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm so grateful to be here and to have had this opportunity. And yeah, I look forward to getting to know you even better. This was fun. So much fun.
Me too. My pleasure. Thank you.